What's going on, everybody? Welcome to I Heard You When You Said, the only podcast where I'm wearing two right socks today. How about that?
Do socks have letters on them with right and left? Oh my gosh, that's so true. I would know this if I wore socks.
And now the internet knows I'm not wearing any shoes.
Well, I'm wearing Doc Martens today with no socks.
Okay, I see you flexing.
Oh, I'm flexing today. Yeah, the whole attire today is coming in hot.
And we don't know if you have letters on your socks or not, those listening or watching this podcast, but what we do know is that we're not doctors or lawyers and we don't play them on the internet. However, we do, for the very first time, have an actual doctor, an actual MD in our presence today. For the second time ever, guest on our podcast, Dr. Halie Schoff. What's going on, Dr. Halie?
Thanks for having me. And I have to correct you, it's DC, not MD. Still a doctor, but doctor of chiropractic, not medical doctor.
See, that just shows you I don't even know about medical initials, much less be a doctor.
Yeah. So on that note, anything we say today, you should take as just three people having a great conversation and not substitute it for your MD, your DC, your, psychiatrist, your therapist, your psychic, or anything like that. We're just three people just bringing good information and conversation to the internet.
So, Dr. Halie, I'll have you start with what specifically do you have, what are your, I guess, licenses or degrees and all that kind of stuff, just so people kind of get an idea of who you are, what you do, and let them get to know you a little bit.
Yeah. So from undergrad, I got a bachelor's in biology. And then after that, went on to get my doctorate, which was 4 years doctorate program for chiropractic. So DC, Doctor of Chiropractic. I've got my master's of applied clinical nutrition because nutrition's always been my jam. And then after chiropractic school, I went on to get my integrative health practitioner cert so that I would have a little bit more foundation and kind of some of the functional stuff that I was being pushed into or I was gravitating into. And so with all that I have, it kind of gives me the basis of, trained chiropractor. We got obviously a lot of nutrition, a lot of functional stuff there too, but I really personally pivoted into that a lot in the last 5 or so years, just because I love root cause. I love lifestyle medicine. And so that's kind of given me the ability to do a lot of that stuff.
I really like that term, actually, lifestyle medicine. I don't know, you probably have said it before on your Instagram or in your podcast. But I think that's a very appropriate definition of what the circle of things that we try to influence, right? Which, we always are a little bit more ticky about saying medicine or healing. We don't even really like to use the word healing as much, but just because it's kind of, people get a little bit funky about that. Anyway, all that being said is where do you find yourself helping the most? What's the basis, the meat and potatoes, if you will, of your practice right now?
A lot of hormones. I do a lot of hormone and gut stuff. So I'd say because of that, my practice is a majority women, but it's funny because once I've kind of, helped women or helped, their fertility, then they'll be like, oh, you have to, see my husband or you have to see my dad or whatever. So, I do see a little bit of men, but I'd say majority of my practice is women because of the hormone stuff. And we're a little bit more complex. We've got a little bit more going on. And so that's been a lot of fun. We do a lot of gut health stuff, detoxification support, making sure that, we don't have any deficiencies, a lot of nervous system. So, but the hormone kind of being the symptoms that bring people in, but then it allows us to kind of dive into these other areas or these other facets, because everything is very much so connected.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons we were, drawn to you, just as a person, but also as a guest, because we find ourselves crossing over a lot, especially with the, where we jam on our side of things, knowing that people come to us with those problems, right? With those issues, sometimes explicitly stated, sometimes not really, but we kind of know what's going on. Is we do a lot of central nervous system work. That's kind of our wheelhouse, if you will. That's one of the heaviest concentrations we have. People with typically more traumatic backgrounds, things like that. Because as you know, that's one of the hardest kind of cookies to break there, as far as like getting people into a consistent flow of like, hey, I helped you soothe this problem, but solving this problem takes, it takes years, not just 6 months of a gut protocol or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But honestly, I love that that's what you do, because so many people are like, well, just what's a supplement that I can take for my hormones, or what's this? But then they're living in just a perpetual state of fight or flight. And it's like, if you want to talk true root cause, I mean, it's your nervous system. And I love that that's what a huge focus is, because people are like, just tell me the supplement to take, like tell me the castor oil pack to wear. And it's like, okay, those things are so great and they help soothe the problem. But yeah, the nervous system is really, I mean, the root of basically all of it. It's controlling everything.
It's really funny. I had a client pause this morning and actually use my own words against me
Oh,
for her
no.
reason. Oh, I love it. I love it because it tells you that they're learning,
Yeah.
right? So she's in the situation and she's like, hey, I need to pause. I'm like, okay, how'd you come to this decision? Tell me why, because there's always so much work to do. And she's like, you can't heal in the place that you're not safe. And I can't leave this
Totally.
environment. So for me to sit here and pretend that I can do this work right now in a situation I can't get out of is an effective use of either of our time. And I was like, in one breath, like, so proud. And in the next breath going, and you're absolutely right. Okay, we'll come back to this. But to give somebody who 2 years ago had no idea how the nervous system was so impactful into their health, and then be able to be, after this time of work, go, hey, I know that until I'm in a place that my nervous system can be regulated, none of the hormone work we do is going to work. None of the nutrition work is going to have the impact we want. And we're just, pouring into a bucket with a hole in it. And I was like, okay. And when you get to somebody to that point, I was like, okay, not that I ever doubt that this functional work really matters. But when you hear it back to you, you're like, as a coach, I'm like, okay,
That's awesome.
I'm so here for this.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's a good conversation to get people just into their bodies and understanding. I think so much of just self-awareness and mindfulness is like, okay, I am a little dysregulated right now, or I am a little high, like just having people don't have that to what, happened this morning. I mean, that's great that she does, because so many people are just like, we can't figure it out. So I think when you get people to the point where they can be mindful of what their triggers are, what the stressors are, because then you can make sure that the other stuff that you're doing works better and is actually able to work when you're mindful of those activities.
No, I agree. And so that kind of leads me into being like understanding what your triggers are, or, being aware, or going from unaware to being aware. Is that how you got into the functional side of things, or what led you to the practices that you do it now? I mean, obviously, like, I know you didn't go like start chiropractic school with like, I'm going to go into functional medicine necessarily, but like, so what led you to the practice that you have now?
Yeah. So, I mean, I always knew that I was interested in nutrition and like kind of natural remedies, right? I mean, I would say chiropractic could be like a subset of that, right? Like natural getting out of pain, natural kind of, recovery, all of those types of things. And then I think it was my own hormone journey and that I was going through as I was going through school that really kind of pushed me into this space of, okay, wow, yeah, your body's capable of so much more than we give it credit for. And we have so many different modalities that we can pivot into to be able to heal. And so I think, with mine I was coming off of birth control. I'm trying to kind of regulate my hormones. My skin's a disaster. How I was able to kind of, okay, now I'm helping my body detoxify. And now I'm, working on my gut. And now I'm working on stress management. I'm working on cleaning up certain things in my diet that I thought were healthy that were, just contributing to more inflammation. And so I was really peeling back some of these layers. I'm like, if I'm struggling with this, how many people else are struggling? And I think that was kind of around the time that we were hearing a lot of just more informed consent, I think, around birth control. And that was kind of becoming a very popular thing where people are wanting to understand their bodies. They want to understand, okay, I know that this is common, but it's not normal, whether it's the bloating or skin stuff or irregular, menstrual cycle, whatever. And so that kind of pushed me into, sharing obviously my own journey, and with sharing it, I was obviously learning more than I ever thought I would learn about said stuff. And then I just kind of started seeing a lot more of that with people that I was seeing. And so I was like, okay, there's just really a space for this, and there's really a need for this type of education. And so um, then that was also kind of around like pre-COVID/COVID. And so um, my in-person stuff kind of was not existent during that time. And so I was really just doing a lot of virtual nutrition stuff. I was learning a ton about functional testing. I did a lot of my certificates during that time just because I had more time.
Right.
And like the world kind of shutting down did kind of force me to look at, okay, this is what I thought that my practice had to be. I thought I had to be a brick and mortar. I thought I had to see patients all day, every day, and just adjusting them. But there's actually so much more that I could do to be able to help people. And I think the pandemic was maybe a silver lining in that, because it showed me that I can do this from anywhere. I can help people from anywhere. And, I have all these tests now that you can like drop ship, that people don't have to come and get it. And it's like, wow, there's just, online dispensaries. So it's like everything really, I don't know if it was set up for online before, but it really kind of put me in this platform where you can really do this from anywhere. And I still see a lot of functional people in person. Like if they're in my area, I saw one this morning before we had this. And so I still see a lot of people in person for sure. And I think that connection of seeing someone face to face is so wonderful, but it is nice because it does allow me to extend my reach or be able to, help people from basically anywhere, which is great.
I think, and I appreciate you sharing that, because that's really where mine and your story are super similar. That's exactly how I got into the online space. Really that's what pushed me more into the online space. I was already doing some nutrition coaching, but I was personal training also. And then when the doors shut for whatever it was, I think 3 or 4 months there, because they eventually did open back up. But I was like, why am I not just doing this on my own to the degree that I wanted to? Not like training people via a camera, but getting people more in-depth help and things of that nature. So like you, that's when I first started my first LLC, started educating myself, started XYZ. And then I started to get to the point where like you had it on your own journey because you were dealing with hormones and acne and, periods and things like that. I was starting to notice that my females were getting harder and harder to drop weight, because that's what people would come to me for. Right. And so I was like, this is really frustrating. This is hard. And I kind of fought it for a while. I was like, the hormone things kind of seem a little bit too in depth for me. I don't know if I want to step in that, that ocean of information, so to speak. And so then, long story short is it forced me into, well, either you're going to learn it or you're not going to be in this industry very much longer, because it's just the way things are now. Like people can go and get it somewhere else. And so, anyway, I appreciate you.
But it's good that you learned it too, because there's so many people that have come to me and they're like, their coach just brings them down to 1,200 calories. And they're like, well, I don't know why you're not losing weight. You just must not be doing anything that I'm telling you. And then these people are like, I'm compliant, I'm doing this. And then their thyroid deregulates, and then they have to eat even less than that. And it's like, I'm glad that you're doing it, because there needs to be more people who aren't just saying, well, you're just lazy. And it's like, well, that's, I'm sure the case for some people, but that's not the case for everybody.
Right. Yeah. And that's where I got really tipped off on to, I'm, as I'm sure you are too, reading into research and kind of trying to inform your practice with things that aren't necessarily quote unquote proven, but things that can point you in the right direction. Is what I started noticing is most of the research is not done on women, first of all, and it's not done on unhealthy women either. Right. So the fact of the matter is, what you're seeing as like, this is not a significant effect. It's like, well, if you were doing it on people who were truly, kind of bottomed out in certain areas, then you would probably see what we're seeing in, on the practitioner side of things. So, anyway, yeah, that's, I feel that to be a very common story among health coach, health, functional health practitioners, things of that nature.
And there's just some things like, I think research is so important, right? But there's so many things where it's like, when you're seeing things over and over and over again, I don't need a research study to tell me that this is causing inflammation in somebody, or I don't need a research study to tell me like this natural thing that God put on this earth is helping people, right? Like eating real food, just I don't need a research study to tell me that makes more sense than eating like justifying a ultra processed ingredient. Like that just makes sense. But I mean, to your point, I mean, and I hopefully will continue to see more non-biased research continue to come out, or a little bit more diverse, like we're doing it on cycling women, or we're doing it, like intermittent fasting is a great example that is huge in the weight loss topic, but most of that research is done on men. And so it's like, I'd love to see those things start to come into the space where we're seeing how it's integrated, and we're seeing how it plays with stressors and in women's bodies, because, there's a lot of moving pieces that make it different and diverse, but it doesn't mean that it's not important.
Well, and I think this is actually where your story comes in. I'm thinking of you right now, because as Stacey's been not necessarily on the hormones and gut necessarily side of things, she's been on the nervous system side of things for decades, and shouting things from the rooftops that people were like, that seems a little woo woo to me, right? And that was
even you did.
Yeah, that was even me. I was like really hesitant. I was like, oh, I'm gonna have a hard time like thinking that that's the case, and then priding myself on being a little bit more open-minded, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to see. Let's just see. And then here we are, business partners. So
love it.
Why don't you speak on that a little bit, Stacey?
Well, it took, I'd probably say, like in this work of nervous system regulation and moving like emotions through the body, that even because my background was yoga and trauma coaching. And so trauma-informed yoga was really where I started. And so even within, I mean, it's much more popular now, but 11, 12 years ago, really trauma-informed yoga wasn't a big deal. Like we've come a long way in 11, 12 years. And so when I started putting the pieces together of my own story of being the hardest worker in the room and not a coach being able to move my weight, and putting together the pieces of all of a nervous system history and a physical history, I'm like, there's a correlation here. And so as I moved into the fitness and nutrition space, the whole reason is that I was giving my clients amazing nervous system work of how to regulate and balance their hormones that way. But I didn't have the nutrition expertise to give them a well-rounded picture. So I got in with a completely different motivation, going, I want to be a more well-rounded coach. And coming into the nutrition space with a nervous system background, everybody looked at me like I had lost my ever-loving mind, that there was no room in this industry for that. And it's so funny when you get into hormone regulation from down regulation. No, that can't be. I'm like, okay, yes, I agree. Breath work isn't magic. Okay, it's not. An essential oil and some breath work isn't going to change your whole nervous system pattern. But really, breath and movement do change everything.
They do.
We breath test for a reason. Like the body is wired a certain way and tells a story, and we can rewrite that story. And so coming into this industry, I got so much pushback, but they really couldn't tell me no, because I was getting clients results that nobody else could get results from. And so that's what made him so curious, going, I'm going to watch her. She's got something here. And then it was together. We're like, hey, you do this really well. I do this really well. If we do this together, we could help more people more efficiently. And that's really what we've done. But where there was so much pushback, like, and it's funny to watch as the industry grows. Probably you might feel this the same way, is now everybody's kind of a believer. Like when they have problems they can't solve. Oh, well, Stacey and Justin could fix it. Dr. Halie could fix it. I'm like, the apology is not going to come.
Yeah.
No. Oh, they're just magically right now. And even what we view as right or a solution to a problem right now is we learn more, and bodies change and the environment change. We're continually learning because the variables are continually changing. Like, and when you even bring up the pandemic, like it really was a gift that I don't think anybody in this industry will be like, it changed the course of how it did for me. Like, okay, I'm going to have to learn how to do this without putting hands on bodies. How do I still solve this problem in not a way? And so our practice, this field of functional and lifestyle health, is continually changing, which makes me so excited to be a part of it.
Definitely.
Because every day is something new. But one of the questions that I have for you is, what is the most friction you see from your standpoint? Because you have lots of letters behind your name, right? And a physical practice where I can kind of get, not that I don't have certifications and all of that and lots of practice, but you is like a literal, hi, look at all of my things on the wall. In pertaining to this, what friction do you still see in people wanting, either believing that the work you do matter, not that it matters, but that it works for them? It might work for somebody else, but it might not work for them. And even in the industry itself.
Well, I'd say people who are coming to me, I generally don't have friction because like they believe in the lifestyle. And I also think too, like anyone who looks at what I do, I get this all the time where it's like, you walk the walk, like, you know, you're doing everything that you're asking us to do. So I don't generally get feedback or pushback from anyone like in my community. I'd say the biggest pushback is more from the conventional side, conventional dietitians, where it's like, it doesn't matter what letters I have after my degree. Any ideology that you present that makes them question their own, I feel like that's the biggest pushback. And I'm seeing that a lot with my colleagues right now. And it's been, you know, a thing for years where it's like, you know, we're bringing up these ingredients of question where these ingredients are banned in other countries. They're allowed here. But then you've got dietitians who are literally putting paid ads out on social media from, they're being paid by big food, but and to literally defend said foods. And it's like, it doesn't matter what letters I have after my degree. I could have the same letters that they do, but I'm saying something different, but I'm a quack. So I don't think I don't even think that it has to do with, I think chiropractors definitely in the past had, you know, we were, I'd say like the OG functional docs, and because we said things that were different, we were likely not socially accepted. Now it's a chiropractor, you know, that's kind of a household name. I mean, you watch football, it's like every football team, every professional organization has a doc on hand. And so I think that's more widely accepted, but I think where we get some of that pushback is questioning some norms and questioning ingredients in foods and questioning things, maybe questioning, you know, standard norms. And I'd say if it goes against kind of that mainstream, or it goes against what conventional says is gold standard, I mean, that's, I'd say, we're more of that pushback. But I'd say I have so many nurses and so many people who are in that industry who are now coming to me and it's like, yeah, what we're telling people to do is not getting any healthier. So I need to come, you know, like, so we're seeing a lot of that, but I mean, it still exists, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, that's a good, that's a answer I would have never thought of. And again, because we don't have that, we're not in a community of medical professionals like on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis like you are, right? Like you said, your colleagues who,
yeah, and I guess I mean, like, you know, a more like an online type presence.
Sure.
That I'll see. But yeah, but no, I get that.
In that being said, is I don't think people think about that, right? Is like, hey, Dr. Halie, she walks the walk, she helps people, she has these results and all that kind of stuff, and there's people in her community who get great results. But still, at the end of the day, you're talking about one person who's coached, you know, hundreds of people, I'm sure at this point, or influenced hundreds of people for sure, right? Even if you don't personally, you know, put your hands on them or spoke to them directly. And still, there are thousands of, like you said, paid docs or unpaid docs who are just like, this is not what I was taught in school, so this must not be the truth. And you're like,
it's fake. you're
like, okay, I'm beating my head up against a wall. It's because no matter how many letters I have, no matter how many case studies I show you,
doesn't matter.
It's not until you run into your own wall that you're going to even start to consider, oh, like maybe castor oil actually does help.
Yeah.
You know, people go to the bathroom more, you know, more often, like whatever, you know what I mean? Just something, even something as like minuscule as a castor oil pack. And it's very like cheap and effective, right? Type thing. Yeah. So anyway, I just
all about the free, cheap and easy modalities that we can do, like the lifestyle stuff, right? I mean, breath work is free. People would say, okay, that doesn't work, but it's like, have you done it?
Well, it's hard, right? It's not just give me a supplement.
Exactly. And people are like, I can't meditate. Okay, I can't meditate either. You're not going to walk up to a pull-up bar and start pumping out 20 pull-ups. You've never done them before. Like, you're not going to sit down and have your brain just totally shut off. You have to practice. You have to It's like, but people it's uncomfortable. The reason that I think that a lot of this stuff doesn't resonate with people is it's not, you don't just give them a pill and they start feeling different. It's like, it's that day in and day out work that is uncomfortable that you have to do.
Well, and our numbers on our side yet, right? There's a lot of noise that we're competing against.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, we're kind of fortunate because we're in both of our practices is that when people come to us, they have literally tried everything else and they know it hasn't worked. So by the time they get to us, I like to use the word that they're metabolic shit shows.
Mm-hmm.
Like you only get to be here if you're a metabolic shit show. That's not true. We do work with people who aren't,
Of course.
metabolically dysfunctional. But that their pain is so great and they've been promised solutions in other modalities that didn't work. And so it's like we get to give them hope back
Mm-hmm.
that, hold on, your body was designed to perform it this way. It didn't betray you. We just have to give it the right environment and support. It will
Mm-hmm.
do what it was designed to do. But truthfully, going back to the meditation piece or breathwork piece, people would invest the time in learning how to do pull-ups before they will go try breathwork or meditation, because culturally it's so much sexier to show off your pull-ups.
Oh, I know.
Ain't nobody sitting there being like, do you know that I didn't, sabotage myself for a whole 2 minutes today
I
while I
know.
sat in the corner and didn't
That's
think
not
about
as
folding my
sexy.
laundry?
And honestly, the nervous system stuff in general is just, it's not the sexy stuff. It's not the
It's
six packs. It's not
mm-mm.
the, cool products. Like most of the nervous system stuff is no products, no supplements, no like nothing. It's just your time. And that's just not as cool, unfortunately. I think it's cool, but.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, that actually brings me to my next question, which is, in light of the sexy stuff, right? Which, in my opinion, the saddest part about the way that the health and fitness industry operates, just because of the way that, results get exacerbated and like side effects and all that kind of stuff, is even something as helpful as like a GLP-1 can be, like I said, semaglutide can be, people will write it off as a weight loss drug, and it won't even be used like properly as a tool for people who can use it properly as a tool, right? It'll be washed away. I'm scared that it will be washed away into the like depths of like, oh, that's what people do if they want an easy button, right? And for some people that's true, but also for some people it's actually super appropriate to put in, pull out properly, right? Use with, strength training and good nutrition and all that kind of stuff. Not approaching that subject too deeply. That brings me to say, in your opinion, what are the top 2 to 3 cheap or free practices that people are not talking about that can improve their health?
That's such a hard question because there's so many. Okay, so the first
That's a great first response, though. Your first response was, oh, that's hard because there's so many, which is such a good question he asked, because that is not the bias of everybody who's going to be listening to this. So I'm so excited that one was your answer, and
Yep.
2, to see what's next.
Well, I feel like the first one is, and this is hard because this does take a little bit of work, but it doesn't take any financial changes or anything, and it just takes mindfulness, is your circadian rhythm, like going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time every day. I literally was just on my husband about this because he stayed up late both nights this weekend watching fights. And I was like, you literally just traveled back to California. You just went to California and back, and then you're going to be exhausted today. And guess what? He was. But and I'm not saying you have to be totally perfect, but so many people, they don't have a routine. They don't go to bed. They have trouble waking up. If you can sync your circadian rhythm, just like an animal or a baby, we don't lose those. We have that as infants, but we lose it. We don't lose it. We've culturally lost. It's like, I'm older, I can stay up and do whatever, and then whatever. But babies are really upset and they don't thrive and they don't grow when they are off their schedule. I feel like a big baby because I like having that similar bedtime. I like having that similar wake time because we make growth hormone when we're in deep sleep, or we're more metabolically sound, because we know that if we have a poor night's sleep, we're going to be craving more that next day. Our blood sugar can be that of someone who's pre-diabetic just from a poor night's sleep. Or, say you do that every weekend, say, I'm great during the week, but then Saturday and Sunday is just, you throw it away, where it's like, you're up super late, but then, you're sleeping in, and then your meal schedules are thrown off, your digestion, so everything is synced to your circadian rhythm. And so I feel like if you can hone that in, that's essential. I think more people need to get outside, because that's helpful for your circadian rhythm, getting outside, seeing that, Huberman obviously talks a lot about it. He's one he gets tons of stuff. It's like, no matter how smart that man is, people are always going to be coming after him with something that he says. But the morning sunlight, it's like, it sounds so simple. It's like, that sounds just stupid. It works. You're going to make more melatonin that night. You're going to increase that natural cortisol so that you've got that good energy throughout the rest of your day. Simple stuff. And then I'd say the third one would be like just getting back to nature. And by that, it's like maybe you find more time to get outside. Maybe you are stepping away from, standard grocery stores, and you're trying to find more food in your area that's grown locally and grown seasonally, and connecting with those, like having some type of connection with where your food comes from, like we typically would have, versus now we go to the grocery store, we have no idea where it's coming from. We have no kind of connection to it. It sounds woo-woo, but like we get a cow from a local farmer here. We get all of our stuff basically from local farms. And it's like the connection that I have when I'm prepping that meal, when I'm sitting with that meal, I'm just so much more thankful, because I know where it came from. I know the hard work that it took to put it on my plate. And I don't know, I have much more gratitude around the food that's nourishing me versus, we go to the grocery store, it's like people are picking stuff up, and it's like, there's just such that disconnection of where that food is coming from, how it's nourishing us. Is it flown in from across the world versus like something that's grown right in your backyard or in your neighborhood that's so much more nutrient dense? And I think there's a plethora of health benefits with that. And if it's not just the food side, like just stepping away from these devices that, I mean, obviously we all need, to connect with people, but like, can you have a phone curfew? Can you, spend more time outside, or spend more time just being present, or just doing things that away from kind of just this like synthetic light and synthetic kind of cultural society that we've had? Because it's stressful, and we are not meant to be inundated with as much information at our fingertips as we now have. And I think that's very stressful on our nervous systems. And so as much as I love it, of being able to connect and read and like, be able to have this conversation with you guys, it's amazing and it's wonderful. But think about how many people, it's like they come to you, or it's like because of social media and the internet, it's like, well, I might have this, and this. And it's like, we're like self-diagnosing ourselves, and we're learning just way too much that our brain can sometimes handle. And so when you're feeling like overwhelmed, or it's like information overload, just take a step back and just go outside, go for a walk, go for a hike, just go sit out in the sun for a second. Like that is going to have that we need more of that and less of like the constant just social media inundation. Honestly, I feel like those things, they sound silly. People are like, okay, that's great, I'm not going to do any of those things. And that's fine. But if you do, I promise you will have a totally different outlook on how you feel and how you approach your health.
Well, all of those things are a little bit delayed gratifiers. Like you'll feel great when you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can't see their melatonin production
No.
increase. They can't see their growth hormone be produced. They can't see what happens in their liver between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. Okay. They don't know what's happening. They're probably drinking from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. And I'm like, please don't. And so like it comes to us getting the opportunity and privilege to continue to have these conversations, because it is that delayed gratification,
Right.
where
It's not
we've all now
instant.
been conditioned for the like button, for
Right.
the ding, for the
Mm-hmm.
text notification, that we've been conditioned to be so overstimulated that it comes back to, wait, you want me to get up and be outside, but I have to have my coffee and check my feed and break a pattern, which is something I think is probably the most pivotal thing we do, is the pattern interruption in people before we even can get into any hormone or nervous system regulation, is that pattern interrupt, which is the highest friction point of how much, what threshold of tolerance do people have to a pattern interrupt that you can get them to keep coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody goes for a walk in the morning and is like, man, I'm so sad I did that.
Oh, I know. It's like even just
I'm so
getting
sad.
outside. I would say that getting outside, yeah, you're going to see the delayed response later, but you, like on our walk this morning, I was like, wow, I love that we get to do this every day. Like it is just the best dopamine booster nothing beats it.
I
Like there are
agree.
definitely natural things that can be instant, and people really gravitate towards a lot of those, like sauna, cold plunge, like those things are getting a lot of love. And because they are instant reducers. But like then it's like you said, the habit that, okay, can we make this consistent in our like how can you consistently feel these things? That definitely becomes a lot more challenging.
You guys are so boring. Huh. Who wants sunlight? I could do a parasite protocol.
I
Way,
know.
way, it's way more
Honestly,
sexy.
be boring. Go to bed at 8, get your sunlight, eat dinner at 5 p.m. I am all for boring. I'm in my boring era, and I'm
You,
not ashamed about it.
you know
I
what my
love this.
favorite thing is watching on your Instagram is the stories of you with a red light mask on. Dude, those are freaking because it looks like something out of literally out of like a scary
Oh, it
movie.
looks like an alien.
I'm like, dude, this is crazy. And then you're like, don't really care because this is amazing. I
It's
love how this
amazing.
makes me healthy. But it's like so funny because I don't even see like I see red light therapy, but the
Yeah.
face
The
mask thing,
mask is a whole
maybe I'm
nother
not.
level. And I will say, you know what? That's another thing. Everyone's always like, what's the red light? What's the device you have? Do you get outside? Do you see the day, like the morning sun? Because that's free and you're getting the same light. So in the winter, I will say I definitely like push those a little bit more because I don't see it. But in the sun, it's like, or in the summer and stuff, when we get the sun a lot more, you're getting red light from that. Like red light's the whole thing right now for anti-aging, skin health, mitochondria. You get that. Mother Nature presents that to us. We get red light all day, but most in the morning and before sunset, like golden hour kind of. So um, if you're in an area where you're blessed enough to get nice enough sun all year, we don't get the sun every day. It's cloudy sometimes. So I do like my little red light mask.
Yeah, I was just at a my wife is a NP at a functional health clinic, and we were just at their office holiday party last night. No, a little early in November for that, but anyway, at her boss's house, and this guy has literally a barrel sauna, like a whatever
So
that $4,000 or
cool.
$5,000 like Norwegian barrel sauna, and then a literally 6 foot tall
Panel.
attached panels of red light. And I'm
Wow.
like, dude, this is a setup right here. Like I've
That's a
seen like
setup.
the mask, or I've seen one like little desk one or
Those
whatever, but
are
like,
nice.
yes,
Those
this
big
thing is like
panels.
this thing is like on a hospital roller, like what you
Wow.
would see an IV come in on. Like it's literally on that. I'm like, okay, this is legit. Like this is somebody who's like, yep, true believer. I'm going to do it. And again, like you said, that's super cool, but cheaper,
But can you get
free.
outside?
Yeah. Cheaper, free, and consistently practice is going to pretty much equal or beat it, 10 out of 10 times. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I love that. And I think the reason I want to make sure that I go back to the reason I asked you that is because these conversations can quickly get scientific and quickly go over people's heads.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want people to, and they can go back on your podcast or your page or our page or anybody who we are influenced by and see like you said, this inundation of information. But what we really thrive on here in our community is simple education.
Totally.
And because our belief is that you didn't learn anything if you didn't change your behavior. Okay. True education is actually behavior change.
Mm-hmm.
It's not looking at something on the screen and be like, oh, I love that there's, millions of microorganisms in my gut. But what does that mean? Like, if you're not going to change a little bit about something, the way that you eat or whatever it is, then what does that matter to you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's cool information, but really it's dead weight.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather you not know that and be a little bit more free to get off your phone than know that and be like, that's cool. And then do nothing with it.
Yeah.
So,
And there's, I love all of that. And it's so true. And there's some people out there who it's like, if you just present like enough information for them to understand why they're doing it, like maybe people are like, oh yeah, they heard that getting out in the morning was good. And they're like, yeah, whatever. I don't know why. But now you know that it syncs your whole circadian rhythm. Like maybe that's like enough where it's like, okay, now I'm motivated to maybe make that a habit, or because I understand the amount of benefits that I'm going to get, maybe I'll make it happen. So I feel like the simplifying kind of helps give them enough, but then also just make it understand why you're doing it. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to know, kind of in light of that conversation, is what's something that maybe you know a lot about or something that you love to talk about that you aren't asked enough about?
That's a good question. Gosh, that's a good question.
What about your physical practice? I'll give you a place to start. What about your physical practice? Because I don't feel like in functional health we talk about the training aspect of it enough. How do you think about that? What's something that you really love to jam on that people don't really ask you enough about?
Posture stuff is nobody ever wants to talk about that. We're all on our phones. We all have got that like tech snack. We're all, but even just like, even I'd say in my practice or whether it's like the physical stuff or not, but like, yes, like the postural, but then even just how certain stressors or like there's certain kind of organs that are associated with certain kind of physical areas that I definitely don't feel like I talk about that enough. Like gallbladder kind of being related to the shoulder. I loved how you talked about like the liver being, between 1 and 3 a.m. is when we're detoxing, and people are like, oh, I always wake up at 2 a.m. or I always wake up at 3 a.m. It's like, well, yeah, that's, when your body's struggling to process something. And so I do love talking about kind of how physical symptoms are always what they might be tied to in terms of internal. And it could be just like, shoulder pain, or maybe it is, you wake up to pee every night and it's like, oh, well, I just wake up to pee every night and that's normal. Well, what time are you waking up? What does kind of your lifestyle look like before that? Because, that definitely can have an impact for sure.
Oh, I love that answer, because to me, what's so funny about that is what we joke about that all the time is like when you start talking about like stuff that's like just outside of people's kind of comfort of understanding. And if they're open to it, like you said, people who come to you, they're probably open to like whatever Dr. Halie says, I'm going to kind of take as the gospel, because obviously she knows, right? To some degree. Now, obviously you as a practitioner have to be, hey, look, don't take everything I say as the absolute, like this is the way it has to be. I'm giving you what I've seen as best practices, right? Because you might see somebody down the street and they have also another best practice and they both work, right?
Right. I think a lot of that comes down to understanding your body too, is like, I can give you the tools, but like we need to see how your body responds, because ultimately that's going to help me shape. And I always say, I'm here to give you kind of the blueprint, but you need to constantly be telling me like how your body's responding or what you're noticing, because you know your body better than I know your body. So
boom, we could clip it right there, and the whole podcast will be summed up. But I find it funny because I think people like liken that to like your liver is active at 1 to 2 a.m. Like they liken that thought to like somebody who charges crystals in the moon. Like they go
I
that.
charge my crystals in the moon.
I was like, you be careful. I'm like, no. Like so careful to bring the plate of crystals over and show her.
Yeah. Well, I'm not getting up to that, but yes, what I'm saying is you say one thing and like it automatically goes as far down the woo woo as it can possibly go.
Yeah. I charge my crystals.
You have no idea how much flack I got for our crystals. I'm going to tell you this because you will love this.
That's like a whole journey. I love.
Oh my gosh, crystals. We'll come back for another podcast on this, because he's definitely.
But I do love them.
He's definitely coming this way, and both of us fidget during the day. Like we have a lot of just energy that we need to get out. And so depending on what we're doing, we'll be on my side of the desk or his side of the desk. Well, I have a plate and we've got all sorts of crystals on there. So I look over and I've got like these heart-shaped different stones like jade and jasper. And I look over and I don't even think he realized it, but he's got an amethyst in his hand while we're at a client call. And I just like take it on the inside. I'm like, oh, how far we've come.
I have my little bowl right here.
I think you were totally gatekeeping her. You were gatekeeping her.
See,
crystals is a new thing for me. I'd say like new within like the last year. There's actually a few gals here that they have like an amazing crystal company in Rochester. I'm actually interviewing for my podcast on Thursday. It's great. I mean, I meditate with my selenite. Sometimes I'll meditate with my amethyst. Like I feel like it enhances my experience. Some people think it's woo woo. I think it's great.
Well, I'm sure there are, like I said, I mean, it's the what I'm saying is it's the example of this entire discussion. Like it will be something that people 20 years ago be like, well, duh, like the yogis of the generations ago are going to be like, well, yeah, we've been using crystals forever. Like you don't know, like energy hasn't been talked about in decades, and all of a sudden now y'all are wanting to know about it, and you wrote us off. So it's that evolution of conversation, having these kind of conversations that really matter. But one of the, just to be respectful of your time today, one of the questions that I always love to ask our guests, and what we have asked each other before, is if you came with a warning label on your forehead, what would it say?
I really like that question. How do I make like a short warning label? It would say, warning, don't ask me, or warning, will talk too much about seed oils. Warning, will tell you all of the dangers of seed oils.
Oh,
And
that's
I know that's a big
amazing.
thing in social media, but it's like when I started learning about stuff like that, I could not shut up about it because it was just like totally changed the trajectory of everything. It's like I will tell everybody about them.
I love that. I so love it.
It's the annoying seed oil girl.
Do you remember that? Remember there was this meme that was going around like a while ago. It was like from The Simpsons, and it was this kid that was like, he was like thrown through like the glass or whatever, and it was like, my kidnapper is returning to me like after like I wouldn't shut up about whatever. And I was like, seed oils, like contaminants in our water, like just like all like the things, and they're like, I'm done with you. I'm done talking to you.
I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I do tease that if I was kidnapped, they would totally give me back. First of all, I don't believe I would be. And my husband would be like, yeah, you'll give her back in about 15.
Yeah, we're gonna give her back. Yeah, after I'm like, you need to make sure that the air is filtered in this room that you're keeping me in. I will not drink unfiltered water. They'd be like, yeah, this is too high maintenance for me.
I'm going to bed in an hour. I don't care what you're asking me to do.
I need my castor oil pack, and can you also bring some chamomile tea? Like, we're done.
And I'd have them here crying about their childhood trauma, apologizing that they even kidnapped me.
Yeah, exactly. They'd be like, you know what? She just, too much. Too much admin. Too much admin.
Amazing.
Well, I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit about your actually new product that you just launched. We had really good intentions of actually having a case here, but before you get on the podcast, no. I was going to ask you for them. We were going to I want to be able to try, like the flavor. I really love the concept of what you're doing because obviously it ties in everything that we just literally what we just talked about. So give us kind of the lowdown on that and what inspired you to make it.
Yeah, so my business partner and I, we stopped drinking 2 years ago just because it just wasn't serving our goals or purposes anymore. And so then we got like, okay, like what are our options, right? It's like sparkling water, some kind of canned drinks. I'm so sorry. I don't know if you can hear her barking. And so we're just obviously super passionate about ingredients and all of that. And so being able to formulate something where it's like, okay, we are very much so transparency. And so when we were kind of having a lot of these drinks, a lot of them are filled with like natural flavors or something where it's like, well, what's in that, right? Like natural flavors could be a whole umbrella of emulsifiers, additives, enhancers, and things that don't have to be necessarily natural. And so for us, we're like, we are literally going to show exactly what's in it. So we created the drink and Synergy Wellness Elixirs, and you'd love the label if you haven't seen them yet. Each drink has a crystal pairing. So amethyst is with the cherry lemon, and then we have the citrine, which goes with the Synergy, kind of like a lemon tea, very uplifting. And so, we want you to not only drink the drink, but we want you to understand the lifestyle behind it. We want you to and realize that when you surround yourself with good people, when you're doing things that light you up, everything falls into place. And this is just kind of a piece of that. So it's been a lot of fun. We've learned a lot, and we're just kind of starting out, and definitely the sky is the limit with that. But being able to formulate something, we make it here in the Finger Lakes. My business partner's husband is actually our formulator. So we were able to be like, yeah, no, we're not doing this. Or he's like, well, you really need to add this to balance the pH. And we're like, okay, well, how can we do that, but in a good way? And so being able to keep it super close to home has actually been really nice because it allows us to, be as much a part of the process as we possibly can, which was cool because I don't think a lot of companies or supplements or things, have the ability to say, it's been as close to home as it is. And so that's been super, super fun.
Now, I'll tell you one thing, the wellness elixir category of drink. First of all, you are probably one of the, I would say, first 10, even
there's a few. There's a
even
few, but there's
products,
like,
right? You see what I'm saying?
yeah, like there's like a few that we could think of offhand, right? Like that's not like a soda, like that's not, or it's not a sparkling water. Like these are like, it's like a sparkling water with benefits, right? Like you're gonna feel something. Well, not like alcohol, but so for like the lemon tea one I had this morning, it's like it just is helping that productivity. It is kind of like making me more focused. Versus like the cherry one, I sleep like a baby after that one. Like I do feel, the relaxation benefits is because, and each can does have a full dose of functional mushrooms that are actually foraged here in New York, which is cool. So we support that small business. And it is rare that in a can maybe people will sprinkle in like a little bit of this, a little, like we want you to get the full dose of what the said product is, because most people aren't taking like chaga or reishi, right? Like they might have, they're kind of blended, but we want you to feel the full benefits of everything. So that's been a fun venture.
Yeah, no, I love the idea. Also, I wanted to add that, because you hadn't talked about that yet, is that each one of them comes with a very specific breathwork practice accompanied on the can,
Yes.
right? Like on the
Yeah.
QR code on the can.
Yep. So the lemon tea is like a very like uplifting, like really oxygenating, like really good to pair with a manifestation meditation, versus the down regulating one. And the cherry is very like very great to do before bed or like after a stressful situation, just very down regulating. So you've got kind of one of each that really can help kind of boost things up or kind of bring you down, whatever you need. But yeah, so that's kind of the thing. It's like, yeah, we want pair it with your crystal, pair it with your breath work, have kind of fit it in this lifestyle instead of just like, I mean, you can just obviously drink it too, that's fine. But like we really wanted kind of the holistic lifestyle to really be ingrained in it. And, you can be as much or as little ingrained as you'd like, but just finding what practice works best for you.
No, I love that so much. I love the wholeness aspect of it. So we will actually, what I'll do is I'll put a link to the website where you can actually get those in the podcast description, so everybody can find that pretty easily. But as we leave here today, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knew where to come and find you if they wanted to connect with you or learn more about what you do as a, part of us just, trying to get more people involved in the entire conversation that we're having right now. So where can people find you and all that?
I am most active on Instagram at Dr. Halie Schoff. I post also on TikTok at Dr. Halie Schoff, and I do a podcast as well, Alpha Health and Wellness Radio, all about helping you to be the alpha of your health and be, no one's going to care more about your health than you are. And, giving you the tools and like how you guys do with this podcast, I think those things are just, it's such a cool time that we live in where we have all of this, that we're just information accessibility is amazing. And so I have that. On my website, Dr. Halie Schoff, you can learn about my practice, memberships. I link to a lot of different brands that I love, small businesses, and yeah.
I love that. I love that. Well, I want to say thank you for just taking the time to engage with us today, have a great conversation, and start to open up the doors to us and you having other conversations with other people who are also experts in their own area and expanding everyone's knowledge in a healthy way. So as we go here today, we wanted to say, thank you for your time. Thank you for what you do. Everybody go, crack a Synergy Wellness Elixir at your next available opportunity. And we will catch y'all on the next episode.
Awesome. Thank you.